of U.S. policy and the history in the Middle East. And that brings us, I mean, again, to the whole question of history. History as a battleground. Who writes it? Who speaks it? What is preserved on the page? And what is deleted? What is omitted? Often, that is where the real history is. Down on the editing floor where it's been cut out. We defend ourselves against attack. As I said, they ambush. We help other people. They meddle and interfere. So we help Afghans and we help Iraqis by invading and occupying their countries. A mere 8,000 to 10,000 miles away from the United States, because we are good people. We love them. We want to extend our munificence and our compassion to them. However, if a country right next door to those countries, Iran, which has huge civilizational links to Iraq and Afghanistan, half the population of Afghanistan speaks Farsi, the national language of Iran. There's tremendous cultural connection between Afghanistan and Iran, and historically Afghanistan was part of the ancient Persian Empire. Iraq is not an Indo-European Iranian state. It is Arab, but the two most important shrines for Shia Iranis, the dominant Islam in Iran, are located in Iraq, Karbala and Najaf. I mean, that's like going to Jerusalem and the Vatican for Shia Muslims. So they have huge ties with, and these are neighboring countries. So they are being accused right now by the United States of meddling and interfering in the internal affairs of Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, you need either Lewis B. Carroll or Jonathan Swift or you know, the woman who wrote the Harry Potter series, Victoria Rowling, right? Is it? J.K. Rowling. Okay, J.K. Rowling. You would need their talent to do justice to this kind of hypocrisy and what Orwell would call doublethink. Terrorism is what they do, not what we do. We carry out missions, of course. Weapons of mass destruction. It's always about their weapons of mass destruction. The fact that the United States and its allies has the largest collection of weapons of mass destruction is not up for discussion. Iran, again going back to Iran, Iran happens to be a signatory to the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Therefore, it is being monitored. It is subject to UN weapons inspections, and it has been monitored. What three countries allied to the United States have nukes and are not signatories to the Non-Proliferation Treaty? Israel, Pakistan, India. Three close allies. No monitoring, no inspection. We just look the other way. Double standards? Gee, I don't know. Hypocrisy? Maybe. Peace process. That's a good one. Because, why? Because now we're in another peace process. Today it was announced that new colonies were being built, again, on the occupied West Bank. I don't like to use the term settlements because that too is a term of propaganda. This is a colonization project. The West Bank, Palestinian land, and the Syrian Golan Heights are subjects, are targets of colonization, of taking a population from one part of the region to another part of the region, and then implanting them right on top of the aquifer. This is in an acutely water-stressed part of the world. And so the settlements, and if any of you have gone to Palestine, it's something to see. It's hard to, I'll try and describe it very briefly. Most of the settlements are up on hills, and you see green lawns, swimming pools, tennis courts. I mean, you think you're in a San Diego subdivision. I mean, that's the Israeli side. Across the street, you find, ramshackle, kind of put together homes, very inadequate roads, sewage systems. That's the Palestinian side. It's very, very graphic. You have to see it. And our tax dollars enable most of this, again, engendering an enormous amount of antipathy and hostility toward the United States. We do coercive interrogation techniques. They do torture. We do rendition. Oh, I feel good about that. Don't you like that word, like rendition? What rendition of Beethoven's Eroica will the Berliner Philharmonic, led by Herbert von Karajan, conduct this evening? What rendition would you like to hear? And what key? And when they do it, of course, it's kidnapping. So we do rendition. Again, the use of language. False debates, embedded cheerleaders, that's what we have. Stenographers to power, that's the journalism that we have. Lapdogs with laptops. Instead of a press corps, we have a press corpse. And now they've reached their epiphany. They've really summited on the top of Everest. They are embedded. They have finally reached the consummate goal of journalism, to be embedded. We have Coke and Pepsi choices in our politics, and we have Coke and Pepsi choices, with a few exceptions, in the media as well. Other terms of propaganda, anytime you see the word free or democracy, just like look out, be aware. When they talk about free trade, what does that mean? Well, for Mexico, it means the destruction of rural agriculture. You want to know why they are coming over here? Because more than 2 million Mexican corn farmers have gone belly up. They've lost their ability to support their families because of NAFTA, because of so-called free trade agreements. So these farmers, I mean, they have choices. They can stay where they are and starve to death. That's always, a choice. Or they can go to one of the big cities, like Puebla or Veracruz or the capital, Mexico City, and, hire themselves out, doing landscaping or gardening or whatever, live on the pavement. Or they can try their luck in the United States. Be interesting to talk about free trade, the free press, the free world, the free market. Excuse me. So I think I should probably wind up and say a few words about my dear friend and comrade, and I dare say my mentor too, Edward Said. I first met him in the 1980s, and quite frankly, I was very intimidated by him. When I walked into his office, he said, in a kind of threatening way, "You better have good questions." I was like, what? And so I got my brain is racing now. I've got to, here's a guy who gets interviewed a lot, right? And so I figured out pretty quickly that he didn't want to hear the same old, same old. Like, are all Muslims evil? Is Islam the religion of terrorism? How do you defend suicide bombers, Professor Said? Those are the kinds of questions he would get. So I started talking about Mahmoud Darwish, the national poet of Palestine, and that kind of, I could see it just opened him up. And we did that interview. We did a whole score of them. I've done many radio broadcasts with him over the years. This book has recently been reissued called The Pen and the Sword, with a new introduction by his very close friend, Nubar Hovsepian, which has a very insightful introduction about the importance of Edward Said. And Said said about Palestine, "It is the cruelest, most difficult cause to uphold, not because it is unjust, but because it is just." And he told me in this book and in other cases, in other instances, that it was kind of the supreme irony that the Palestinians are the victims of the victims. The second victims being, of course, the Jews and the terror that they were subjected to, not in the Arab, Muslim Middle East, but in largely Christian Western and Central Europe and Western Russia. That cruel irony of being the victim of the victims has made it very difficult for the Palestinians to gain any traction in terms of attracting support. And their narrative has been largely drowned out. I must say, just in the last 2 or 3 years, that has changed because of the sheer grotesque actions of the Israeli government. It's always good to make distinctions between governments and people. The war on Lebanon, which produced about 1,300 Lebanese killed, 120 Israelis. That was followed, excuse me, with the Gaza attack, with the same kind of results, in fact, even fewer Israeli casualties, half of them caused by friendly fire, that is,